Hi, my name is Marley and welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about more or less specific things that I want to see more of in my books. Some of them are more plot-wise, some of them are more... Why is my English not Englishing today? Essentially what you find inside of the books, apart from the story. Also, in case you were wondering why I'm standing today and maybe being a bit too energetic, my brain has been feeling chaotic all week. This is the result of it. I'm going to try to keep it as calm. I'm going to try to keep it as calm as possible, but in case it is a bit more chaotic than usual, deal with it. Anyways, I got a list with some things. I'm also gonna give you some recommendation. However, not for everything, because A, spoilers, B, I haven't actually found a recommendation for everything. These are just things that I would like to see more in books, and I'm sure there are books out there that I could read that have these, but since I don't have a lot of time, I just haven't found these books yet, or haven't had the time to read into them. Oh no, there's one thing I forgot on this list. Am I going to write it down? No, I'm gonna remember it today. So here in no particular order. First off, poetry, especially in my fantasy books. I like some poets, some people who just will throw out a verse and be like, I'm not a poet myself, so don't ask me to do it. That was a horrible idea, to give you an example. Essentially, I don't care if this poet or poetress, I guess. I have never actually seen a female poet in a book, I think. No, I don't care if this person is like this mysterious, brooding kind of guy where it's very obvious that if he was living in our modern society, he would probably be diagnosed with depression. Or if it's this very cheeky, very funny kind of person who's probably also depressed. They're just, for some reason, poets always seem to be not the happiest of people. But I want more poets. I don't want to be told that this person is a poet. I want them to serenade me. I want to see that the author who's creating this poet character and who's creating the story knows their way with words, apart from describing the surroundings. The character does not have to be the main character in the book. I do not care. It could be someone who's appearing like every 4th or 5th chapter in the book. I just want one character that is able to convey a deeper meaning behind words. So if you're looking for books like those, I only could think of 3 very famous books and series. One would be The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. There is a poet character in there. He's not the most important, though he does give an important part to the plot. Let's just say that. And I liked him a lot because he was very funny. He was very... It wasn't on the nose poetry. It wasn't like, here are some verses that rhyme. He actually had some character apart from being a poet. Then we obviously have, I think in English he's called Dandelion. In the TV series he's called Jaskier from the Witcher series by Andrzej Sapkowski. He's also in the books not the most prominent character. In the series he gets a bit more screen time, probably because he's one of the fan favorites. And also there's a very heartbreaking subplot going on, okay? After the first season, if you've watched that, you know what subplot I'm talking about. And then the third book is a book that I didn't actually like because the writing style was just too dense for me and there were too many coincidences. But The Longships by Franz G. Bengtson also had a poet character, and I actually liked him a lot because he would not only give you some poetry, he was also one of those kind of poets that would get drunk and then just get, I'm not sure if he got worse or better at speaking, but it was funny. Okay, second one, not so much a plot point and more I wanted this actually in my physical books. Maps. Give me more maps. I know that pretty much every fantasy book has them nowadays, but I want them in every single book, no matter the genre. Because if you give me historical fiction of London in the 17th century, I don't know what it looked like back then. And if you tell me that they are going from some harbour to some church, that's not gonna give me anything. The same goes for contemporary books. I mean, I've been to London, but only once. Do you actually think I know what it looks like when they go from Buckingham Palace to the Big Ben to the tower. Do you think I know how long that's gonna take them? And then you tell me it's night because it took so long. Can you just give me a map at the front of the book so I can visualize it? And I know this is probably also a point of not having enough money for the maps inside every single book. But I never said these are gonna be realistic, okay? On a similar note, I also like glossaries actually at the end of my books, or a list of characters that are appearing. I know these are also more fantasy-esque kind of stuff and sometimes historical fiction, especially if you also mark down which of the characters actually existed. I don't necessarily need the glossaries in every single book, and if you only have 4 characters, I also won't need a list of characters. But if you've got more than 7, let's say 7 because I think that's just the number that most people can comprehend, please give me a list. I can barely remember my own name. Don't expect me to remember the names of all of your characters, especially if it's a multiple book series. For the next one I got recommendations again, following the point of view of the crazy person essentially. So you know, like the Joker from the DC universe, like that kind of character, just a character that's totally gone off the rails. And if you manage to write from that perspective, first of all, I got questions about your own mental health, because why do you know how to write these kinds of people? Also, second of all, great book. It's gonna be a great book. Also, I think it adds some interest if the person actually knows they're crazy, or if you can see them becoming more unhinged. Like they start out as this kind of normal person, and then because of all the things that's happening to them, especially like fantasy settings, but also historical fiction sometimes, or I mean, I don't read a lot of thrillers. I'm gonna guess that you get these kind of characters more on thrillers. But just because something is happening to you, like the mind is a mysterious place. Your psyche can go in all directions if you experience trauma. And I like to see that in my books. Not in real life, but in my books. So if you know what I mean, there is one character in the Mistborn book number 2, what's it called? The Will of Ascension, I think, is the second one, by Brandon Sanderson. There's one character that I really, really, really loved. Not because he's a great guy, but because it was interesting following him throughout the story. I also think we get some of that in The Last Hours by Ned Waters, because she's talking about the Black Death and about all the consequences, and obviously if you're gonna be enclosed in a castle with a lot of people that are very different from you, some of them just turn out to be not as mentally stable as others. The third book is a classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray. You can see him becoming obsessed with his youth and with his looks and with people, and that just contributes to him becoming crazy. At least I would qualify him as crazy. The fourth one, I think it's the fourth one, I didn't number these, is the found family trope, but actually with different age groups and maybe even with some animals. Because the thing is, I understand that friend groups are easier when the people are your age and when you have something in common, but also a family isn't all the same age. So why would you, in a found family trope, only have 5, 16 to 18 years old angsty teenagers? There's gotta be some grown-ups in there, folks. One that kind of does this is God Killer by Hannah Painter, because there's a literal child. But actually, I think there's one, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while since I've read this book, but there's one book that I like even more for this. It's more of a humorous contemporary called The 100-Year-Old Man Who... What was it? The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. Fantastic title. In German, they just used the same structure and translated it into that. I don't think it's... I think it's originally one of the Scandinavian languages, not sure which one though. But it's basically just what it says. Some 100-year-old guy who just turned 100 decides that he doesn't want to celebrate his birthday with some people that he's never met, and just climbs out of the window and walks away, and then he finds people and animals, and they form this group and just travel around, and it's the funniest thing. As I said, it's been a while since I've read it. I definitely want to reread it, but I don't have it with me. But yeah, that's actually one way I would say that the found family trope isn't just about teenagers. Also, while we're on it, give me books about people who are older or younger. Not everybody has to be in the age bracket of, let's say, 16, overthrowing some dystopian government, to 25, maybe 6, marrying the 16-year-old. First of all, that's weird anyway. Why is it still a thing in so many books that older guys marry such young people? Hi, editing Marty here. Not sure why I only talk about people wanting to marry each other. Because it's weird if they're romantically involved. Or, otherwise involved apart from friendship in any way. Like, 16 and 25 years old is not an acceptable age gap. Not because of the age gap, but because of the age. A 9 years age gap is not acceptable if one of you is a literal child. Honestly, if one of you is under the age of 25 and the other person is like 9 years older, I will have questions anyway. That doesn't sound like a healthy dynamic to me, and it also isn't a healthy dynamic if it's just fictional. And we have to do better to give young people examples. Even if I do understand that for many people, fiction is not the same as the real world. There are still people out there who are not at the age yet where they will be able to differentiate as well. And a lot of books nowadays are just marketed in a way that do not make it clear what age bracket they're for. Anyways, that's not this video, but it's an important topic. It's also weird, by the way, if the guy is 1,000 years old, immortal, and then marries a 16-year-old girl. Please stop that. Anyway, that's not the topic of this video. That's a different video. But just people of different age groups in books would be nice. Then there's also the trope of betrayal, and I like that a lot. Little disclaimer for my friends watching this, because I know that there's at least 1, probably 2, maybe 3 people that know me quite well. I'm fine. I don't need you to betray me. I just like betrayal, especially between friends. There's a lot of betrayal in the YA section of people who love each other, and a lot of the times it's not even actual betrayal. They just say they've betrayed each other to protect each other, and that's nice, don't get me wrong. But I want the main character to be betrayed by someone else than their lover, by a friend or a mentor, because when a mentor betrays you, you don't expect that. And this one I've kind of come to expect betrayal from the love interest, especially if there are 2 love interests. One of them is gonna betray the main character and then he's gonna be very sorry, or it's gonna turn out that he didn't actually betray her but just wanted to protect her, and maybe they even work together, the 2 love interests, and it's always the same. I want, for once in my life, to be surprised by betrayal, and I want it to be by somebody else than the love interest. I won't give you a recommendation per se, just because, like, spoiler, but I'm gonna give you the series that kind of started me liking betrayal. That's House of Night by PC Cast and Christine Cast. I definitely got these when I was way too young, so I can't tell you if these hold up. I was like 11. This is not a series for 11 years olds. There are a lot of adult themes. There's a lot of adult fun time, as people like to say on YouTube. I think there's also a point where people are having adult fun times against their will. If I remember correctly, I'm not entirely certain about that. The consent was definitely dubious, at least. But there is a very interesting betrayal that I liked. That has kind of stuck with me, apart from the things in there that I was definitely too young for. Then the last one is something that actually quite annoys me. You know, when characters lose their powers and then regain them. Do not regain them. A person is still a person without their powers. Similarly, if somebody gets a disability, they can just stay disabled. It just sometimes feel like if you take away a person's ability to do something and then give it back. Imagine somebody reading this who's actually lost this ability. And obviously I can't really speak for myself, because the only ability I've ever lost is seeing without it blurring before my eyes. But imagine somebody who's reading your book is sitting in a wheelchair, especially if they're very young, and then they read about this character, maybe even the main character, who loses the ability to walk, And then in the end, by magic, regains it. Just let them sit in a wheelchair. It's fine. Like, us walking people have enough representation in the media. If a character is disabled, it's absolutely fine to let them be disabled, to show why it might be hard to be disabled. That would be great, thank you. I also don't really have a recommendation for this, especially the disabled part, because as I said, I haven't really read a single book where a character has become disabled and stayed disabled throughout the whole book. I have read some books where people lose their abilities, their magical powers, and don't regain them. I won't tell you those though, because again, spoilers. However, I will give you a series where this was done, I think, quite well, that I read as a child. Because most people who watch this will probably not read children's books, I'm gonna guess. The series was called Children of the Lamp by P.B. Kerr, and it was about some basically genie children, and they discovered the powers at the age of I don't know what. There were siblings, I don't remember if they were twins actually. Might have been twins, might have not been twins, whatever. It was obviously a lot about their magical abilities as genie, and I won't tell you why I'm giving you this example, but it's a good example, and it formed me in ways that I can't even describe today. And you know what? I did almost forget the one that I did not write down, but this is gonna be a fast one. It's main characters, especially younger ones. I mean, most main characters are quite young, as we've already established, but just main characters whose biological family is still alive, and maybe they even talk to them. Actually, I think I can't think of a single series where that's the case, and that's the Selection series by Caracas. However, the family isn't really in the picture throughout the series, even though they have quite the good relationship, I think. Well, as good as it can be if you grow up in a world where even children have to work because of your low standing. And I guess there's also But Her Father Died. But the Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, I think, yeah, she also still has her mother and her sister, but her father has died. And I realized that not everybody has a happy family, but even those are rarely shown. And if they're shown, then it often turns out that the kid of the main character isn't actually the child of the family, but has been adopted in some way, which is why there's one book series that I'm not mentioning right now that I'm in the middle of, where I'm not sure if their parents are actually the parents of the child. There are possibilities, especially in dystopian novels or fantasy novels, where you can show them having a healthy relationship with their family and the family also being in the story. There are some books where you have the family, but they're just not a big part of the book. And I just think that's kind of sad, because like in the end, if you have a good relationship with your family or not, they will always be part of who you are, part of your history, and there are actually families out there that are kind of healthy, so it would be nice to see more of those in books as well. Also, there seems to be this thing where oftentimes one of the parents are dead, mostly the father for some reason, especially in the YA age group. Why? It feels kind of like an easy plot point, and it's been done too much and too often, and I've seen every version of it, and just give me a healthy family dynamic. That would be nice from time to time. The main character does not have to go through the trauma of losing family members, of being an orphan or whatever. There are other traumas that you can give them. Anyways, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this little video with some recommendations. Some of them, I realize a lot of them are very well known books, but maybe I could still give you some ideas on what you might want to read next. And also, if you got recommendations for me, just write them in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon.